All right. We're good on time. All right. Let me call to order the Mount Pleasant Budget Committee meeting for this Monday, March 24th. A couple of things I just want to say. One, I'm very glad that the events recently involving our police officer did not end up in any tragedy of anybody involved, and that's a blessing. I hope everybody noticed that we've only had an officer-involved shooting about once a decade. I think the last time was 2012, as reported in the media. I think that speaks well for our community and our police. So glad our officer is doing well, and I've seen a lot of people around town, and they're very proud of the response of the way our town handled this and everything. So, Chief, I just want to commend everybody. The communication and everything was great. Second, I want to remind everybody there is a municipal election tomorrow that the town is paying, I believe, $81,000 to fund. That is a very high cost per voter, which is the perfect cliched segue into speaking of the high cost of freedom. Tomorrow is Medal of Honor Day in America nationwide. And there are some events and some recipients on the Yorktown, and we're sort of the center of the Medal of Honor for America. And it would be great if everybody would remember that and partake part of that. So that's my sermon for the day. And you can't vote today, but I did early vote, and I just wanted to remind everybody the importance of this and the price that was paid for that freedom. Item 2 is approval of the minutes from the May 6, 2024 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Item 3 is public comments. If you have a public comment to make, please come forward, give your name and address. 2.5 minutes. No one? No public comment? All right. We will close public comment. We will move forward with the presentation of the Town of Mount Pleasant recommended budget for fiscal year 2026. And just for public edification, under our form of government, the proposing the budget falls on our staff, not the elected officials. And I think they have done an excellent job, as they always do. And Eric, I want to thank y'all for getting to this point, and we look forward to going through it over the next few months. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the kind comments. Members of council, good morning. Always good to be with you. Happy to present to you the proposed budget for the next fiscal year, which begins July 1st. And this is the first time you're seeing the document. My hope today is to give you the highlights, the strategy involved in creating the document, and that it's helpful as you dig deeper into the document in preparation for the departmental budget meetings, which begin next Monday. And so this is a level service budget, which means it aims to maintain and strengthen what we do and what we have. It's not expansionary. And so the budget is balanced. It requires no tax increase. Seemingly, it's a world full of change almost on a daily basis. And a budget like this allows you to pivot if necessary, if you feel it's appropriate in a way that helps the citizens of Mount Pleasant. This type of budget allows you to do that if you feel it is necessary. It aligns with your policies and guiding documents. I'm speaking of the comprehensive plan, which speaks to protecting neighborhoods and quality of life, and the strategic plan, which is very similar to that. And its focus is on our resources. First of all, town facilities and infrastructure. And so you know some of the highlights in this category. I'll dig into it more in a few moments, but this budget proposes a $500,000 increase in pavement preservation. You know the importance of quality roads and safe roads. $500,000 more towards that. Also $500,000 towards stormwater repairs. And I know you know the importance of that. Also, town facilities and infrastructure under this category. You'll see $200,000 more dollars in town-wide maintenance of our facilities, and an additional $250,000 in field and court renovations involving the recreation department. Under service levels, this budget proposes 4 new positions. 3 are in the police department, 2 are corporals, and 1 is a community service officer. we are now far past 100,000 calls for service every year in the police department. Adding 2 more corporals allows for greater supervision in the field and greater ability to serve and respond to calls as necessary. You know the value of the community service officers. Chief Arnold speaks highly of them and the load they take off of our sworn officers every single day. They can take reports, they help with traffic incidents, and so on. Also asking in this budget for 1 additional waste management operator in the public services department. We have grown by 8,000 housing units since we added a waste management operator. So this budget proposes another, teamed up with another fully automated vehicle, and now allow us almost 1 full additional area that can be collected during the week, maintaining our level of service. Human resources, always trying to remain competitive and pay our people competitively in the region. This budget proposes a pay for performance amount of 3.5%. The budget also includes $30,000 for a wage and compensation study next year. And so here's how the budget shakes out in terms of numbers. At the bottom is the proposed budget for next year of $166,303,166. The lion's share, where most of the activity occurs, as you know, is here in the general fund, and asking for a reduction in the general fund for July 1st to $121,607,115. The reduction is not a reduction in service. We're maintaining the same level of service. We've had some one-time injections into the current budget. I'm speaking mostly of grant funds that have come in. The opioid settlement came in this current year. It inflates the budget slightly. That money will not be back, so we don't need to budget it. So $121 million in the general fund, and as I repeat, it's not a service reduction. Debt service fund right here, $16 million. We're doing well at paying down the indebtedness of the town, and so that's proposed at just over $16 million. State accommodation tax fund, just under $3 million. Notice here the current budget has us at $6.8 million. Again, not a reduction in service. We allocated over $3 million from that fund, sent it to the capital fund to help support the police fire training facility and fire station number 7. And then there's the capital asset fund. I'll dig into this in greater detail in a moment at $46.5 million. This is not a large reduction from the $270 million that you see here. The current year houses all of the capital money for all the projects in town. So this year is always inflated because it has all the money until the projects are built out and that money is spent. And so always have to figure in the transfers, the interfund transfers, so we're not counting the money twice, and that brings us to the $166 million number. Tammy is going to review the revenues, and I will be back with the expenditures. Tammy?
Sure. Good morning.
Morning.
So the revenues for the general fund, or our operating fund, are shown here by funding source. The largest revenue source for the general fund is property and other taxes. This category, which makes up 44% of the operating revenues, includes current and delinquent taxes, as well as the local option sales tax. That's both the rollback and the municipal pieces. The next largest funding source is from licenses and permits at 35% of operating revenues. Revenue in this category is from business licenses, public utility and insurance licenses, as well as building permits. The remaining 22% of general fund revenues come from transfers in from special revenues, state and federal grants, charges for services, fund balance usage, and all the other sources as seen here. Now this next chart shows the proposed versus current budget revenues And the detailed chart of these revenues are in your book under the Revenues tab. Property and other taxes are proposed at just under 53 million, which is a 3.5% increase over the current year. That's basically natural organic growth. Licenses and permits are projected to increase 3.5 million, or just over 9%. Now, this is due to not only business license tax increase of 4%, but there's the public utility licenses are projected to increase. As you know, Dominion had a rate increase that affects our revenues as well. Same for insurance license revenues. The tax charged on insurance policies written on the property for the town. We all know insurance prices are going up. That means the revenue side goes up as well. Building and electrical permit revenues are also increasing with the rate change that was approved last year. Now, state and federal grants, as Eric alluded to earlier, shows a reduction because of that 1.3 million COSIP grant we just approved at mid-year in fiscal year 25. So for fiscal year 26, we're going back to our standard 1 million budget of grant funding as we continue to look for grant sources. Investment earnings are also expected to increase. The proposed increase of 50%, as shown here, is still conservative. We don't want to base ongoing expenditures on what could be one-time or temporary revenue, so that is still a conservative number at a 50% increase. And then rents and royalties also show a significant increase with the reopening of Hyamber Hall in fiscal year 26. So overall, our operating revenues without transfers in from special revenues or the use of fund balance are projected to increase 5.2% over the current budget. And additional detailed information will be provided on revenues at the Finance Committee next week.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. On the expenditure side, important to point out that police, fire, and public services make up 50% of every dollar spent here at the town. Overall operating for the town is down 1%. Technology has helped with that. That's try to keep down the cost of government as much as we can. Expenditures by department. General government expected to increase 1.9%. You'll see in this column the percent change is almost $176,000. The biggest factor in that number is the $150,000 for the election next year, is the cost of the election. By the way, strewn throughout all of these departments is the 3.5% pay for performance increase. Municipal court proposed to be down 1.2%. Legal up 2%. Planning, land use, and neighborhoods down 12.8%. This is the end of the zoning code rewrite. So all the funds that were necessary for that project are no longer necessary, and they'll come out of the budget. Non-departmental is right here. That houses our street lighting expenses and our property and liability insurance. Both have increases for next year. The police department is shown to be down 2%. That is not a reduction in force or reduction in service. The opioid grant money is in the number from this current year. That 1.3 million has come out. Remember, there are 3 additional police positions being asked for in this budget. Fire is 4.7% increase. Over the last 5 years, the fire department you've invested the most in the fire department than any other department in the town. Second is the police department. Public services has the wage increases in it. The new employee and the new vehicle I mentioned at the outset. And engineering and development services down 1.4%. The Opal, the new software program that we have, the implementation money is no longer needed in that department. That's driving the decrease. Recreation is proposed to be up just under 2%. Know that in the recreation budget, is $27,000 for the Makers Market and $50,000 for the bubble, I call bubble conceptual diagram for the Jones Center. And then there's transfers out to support debt and capital for total expenditures of $121,607,115. Okay. Additionally, in non-departmental is houses funding for outside agencies. This is your community investment program. This is the $100,000 that's budgeted every year. This list here is the scoring that staff has done and provided the recommendations to you. This is up to you. There's a folder in your budget that includes every application that was sent to us. I'll bring this back up at the next budget meeting for discussion. Typically, once you've had a chance to go through departments and we can finalize the numbers so you know exactly what you're working with, is when you take back up this section here. Pleased to report under contract services in the police department is $275,000 for the Charleston Animal Society. This is the first year that we have an agreement. And this agreement, by the way, will go to PJL between us and the Animal Society that ties the number of animals delivered to the animal shelter and services that are provided. We're excited about this. I'm excited about it. Work closely with Mr. Elmore and the board at the Animal Society for this agreement. Another additional request came in from Charleston Metro Chamber, $20,000 to support their People First initiative. This is on the agenda for Finance Committee for your consideration. And then there are the state ATAX fund projects that arrive in the budget just about every year, all of it totaling $585,000. And again, this section here you will revisit at the second budget committee meeting. Other funds besides the general fund is the debt fund. We're paying it down less than last year. We still have remaining 5 general obligation bonds, and this budget plans for one anticipated in the future. There is one state revolving loan fund repayment, stormwater, in the budget, 4 lease purchases still being paid off, and we're proposing 2 lease purchases for next year. One's a 7-year and one's a 5-year. This is for heavy equipment.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just had a quick question for you. What would be included in the one anticipated bond issue for this coming year?
If you choose you need a bond issue for the acquisition of open space, say, it's programmed into the budget for you. State Accommodations Tax Fund, just under $3 million. Some of this goes to support operations that are consistent with the state law and also to fund some of our capital projects like the Public Safety Training Facility and Fire Station number 7. Okay. The remaining fund to talk about is the Capital Asset Fund, divided into 3 sections. It's your CIP, which is was presented to you in draft form at the council retreat. That's your brand new brick and mortar type things. There's the comprehensive maintenance plan, which is the maintenance of our facilities and our roads and stormwater lines. And then there's the asset replacement plan, which is vehicles, computers, things like that. And so up top here are the revenues that support our capital asset fund. And down here is a breakout of where the money goes to support each piece of our capital asset fund. This is the first year that our comprehensive maintenance plan, that $16 million number, just under 17, exceeds our capital improvement plan. So for the first time, we are spending more on maintaining stormwater lines, roadways, facilities, than we are on pure new capital projects. Likely it speaks to a transition in the community as growth seems to slow down, is more under control around the 2% number. Included in the asset replacement plan, this $11 million number, is 34 new police vehicles, 3 garbage trucks, and 2 new fire engines.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
And apologies for being late. I got held up. So, the 2025 amended for hospitality and local accommodations tax on here is 27 billion. What is? Am I reading that wrong? The amended portion.
Now,
I'm
forgive
looking
me,
at
sir.
page 99.
Okay.
Sorry. There's a $20 million change. I was just curious on that. Top line, 99.
Unless Tammy knows off the top of her head, clearly there was a transfer to capital from hospitality tax, and we'll get that number for you and exactly where it went to and what project.
Okay.
But that would be the only reason.
Oh.
It's in the capital asset fund, so
Oh,
it had to go to a capital project.
Oh, transferring from the.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're looking at the revenues line.
Mhm.
That's a combination of hospitality and the 3 accommodations tax. So you're not looking at just the state accommodations tax line. I can get you the breakout for that and all the projects associated with it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Here's the CIP, which is section 1 of your capital plan. Nothing has changed from when it was first delivered to you at your council retreat. It's a 5-year plan. Next year is the first year of the plan. It can change. It is scored based on criteria. And it resulted in these projects here. Each of these projects down to the lower and upper mill tract, which is right about here. These are all section B or rank B projects, are all funded either entirely or partially in the proposed budget. Nothing has changed originally. Each of these projects will be reviewed at the departmental budget committee and can be discussed further, and it will come back to you again for approval at the second budget committee. But here's what they are. For transportation, it's town access management and improvements to our intersections, as well as Stockdale intersection at Park West Boulevard. For public safety, the number 1 project on the list is Fire Station number 7. Its renovation and expansion, as well as additional contributions to the public safety training facility and Fire Station number 2 renovation and expansion. And Public Works, it's the boardwalk at Pitt Street and then the lower and upper mill tract stormwater improvements. Recreation, Jones Center, comprehensive repair, and Mount Pleasant Way. And so that is our CIP proposed for next year. On the maintenance side, tougher to read. I will go down to this section right here. But on the public works, public services side of our maintenance plan, $2.8 million into our fleet. Townwide facility maintenance at just over $2.2 million. Stormwater repairs at $2.2 million. These were the numbers I was referring to at the beginning of this presentation. Watershed projects, undergrounding. There is an additional $600,000 in here for undergrounding of power lines and $500,000 for right-of-way maintenance. Jumping down to public recreation, $500,000 for field and court renovations, $200,000 for playground renovations, and $75,000 for recreation property maintenance. And on the transportation side, there's the big number for pavement preservation at $2.5 million and additional sidewalks at $400,000. That's not renovation to sidewalks. These are brand new sidewalks. Maintaining sidewalks is up in the public works section. Mast arms, and then more money for intersection improvements down here on the transportation side. In total, at the bottom is the $16.9 million number broken out here in a pie chart. Most of it goes towards transportation, and the other portion towards public works. Okay. CIP and CMP together. This is the breakout here. This is for next year. The proposal, it's this pie chart on the left side. Money, most of it going towards public services, public works.
Excuse
and a
me.
large-
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reference on the page so we can take note to these slides? Do we know the reference to the page numbers on this, or Does
Yes,
this-
sir.
does this
It's all
reference-
found in the budget document. What
Right.
I can do is after this meeting, I'll send you the presentation.
okay?
Does that
thank you.
work? And on the right side is the 5-year proposed CIP, which can change because the CIP for year one is what you decide on. But as the years go on, you may choose to amend that at your discretion. And so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, that is all for the presentation today. As stated up front, it's the first time you're getting the document, and I hope the overview was sufficient enough as you begin to dig in a little more for budget deliberations next Monday.
Thank you very much. Everybody, please take note of this schedule, and sometimes it's disorienting when our April committees happen on the last day of March, but that happens occasionally throughout the year. Everybody, please be here since we're going to be looking at these budget items in committees. And then the public hearing on the proposed budget is at our April 8th meeting. And so we'll be spending April and May doing this and hopefully adopting the budget in May. But of course, we have a buffer of June should anything get carried over. Rarely does that happen, but it could. So it's there because the budget goes into effect on July 1. Any questions, comments? Of course, the detail work is for committees. Maybe make note of those questions if you have any big picture items while we have the two heads of the head of finance and the head of the town here. Yes, sir.
Sure, I'll jump in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing that I did want to highlight is on the pavement preservation. We all receive a lot of phone calls and emails regarding the state of our roads in this town, and I think one thing that surprises people is the number of roads that are actually state roads in Mount Pleasant that we have limited authority on. But I do want to applaud you for increasing the amount of money for road repaving. I know we do have significant roads that are under our purview, and I think it's definitely a big step in the right direction to maintaining those roads as safe and easy on your car. You have a cup of coffee, don't have to worry about it spilling when you roll over a pothole. So do want to thank you for putting some additional money into that category. Shifting gears for just a second, one of my concerns is as Mount Pleasant and the Charleston area becomes a more expensive place to live, I'm concerned about the impact that has on mainly our first responders and our public works crews. I'm picturing it being very difficult to live here on their starting salaries, which are kind of in the $40,000 to $50,000 a year range. Could you address what this budget does to help sort of those frontline personnel in terms of their salary figures?
So, Mr. Brownstein, thank you for your points and your question. Just a couple years back, thanks to you and council, there was a significant move made to bring up especially public safety salaries into a competitive range. And we're still in that situation. The pay for performance for next year at 3.5% is right in line with the CPI for this area. So people will be keeping up with the cost of living in the area. Just as important is also in next year's budget is money for a wage study. of which, when that wage study is complete, we'll bring it back to you. Don't know what it will say yet, but it may point out larger discrepancies. And at that point in time, if you feel it's appropriate, that would be the opportunity to make adjustments to salaries in the way that you see fit.
And do you know essentially kind of what that timeline would be on the study, when we may see that for the first time?
Well, we think it'll be done rather quickly. In the past, we've done a wage and a classification study, which adds several layers of complication to it. That's where people should fit in the organization and whether their job descriptions are accurate and things like that. We are comfortable in that spot. So this is just purely wages, which will accelerate the process. And so we plan to move forward with it right away as soon as council is comfortable with the budget number and that item in the budget. And so I would think 4 to 6 weeks in the July-August timeframe, you would have the information.
Great. And I do know that this year is a reassessment year when they take a look at everybody's property values and presumably adjust them upward since prices have been going up. How does that impact this budget?
It does not impact this budget. This budget anticipates no adjustment in the tax rate, which would happen in September of next year when it's time to set the tax rate. So it's not included in this budget. We don't count on that happening. So anything that you and council may do in September would be in addition to what we're presenting to you today.
And so this budget is, it keeps things at the current tax rate, which is half of Charleston's tax rate
And North Charleston.
and North Charleston's.
50% lower than Somerville.
Okay, so it's keeping taxes flat at their current rate, which is below that of many of our surrounding municipalities.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? So I think we all know to prepare the deep dive for our committees, which will be meeting, is that a week from today, right?
Yes, sir.
Next Monday.
Yeah.
So we'll be back at it next Monday. Again, I want to thank all of y'all for this. The explanations, not only of the expenses, but the sources of the revenues are fantastic. And I look forward to everybody getting a deeper dive on this at committees. If there's nothing else, this budget committee meeting is adjourned.